Good existence, cosmopolitans, and welcome back to Plant-Based Spirituality. This is episode 3, and today we're going to have an in-depth look at the phenomenological effects of a very special psychedelic herb known as the sun opener. It's very special. It has the power for time travel and divination in an altered state of consciousness, which is totally induced by the herb. But as far as herbs go, and altered states of expanded states of consciousness, these are worth looking into. And the Latin name of this herb is Sinicuichi. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but it does have the word sin and the word chi or ki in it. So I'll start by saying that anything that has the word sin and ki in it is probably worth investigating. Otherwise known as the herb of Saint Francis, likely given this name because of the likeness of the visions of Saint Francis is akin to the psychoactive effects. However, beyond the psychoactive effects, the sun opener carries a plethora of unique actions, both physically and metaphysically. So the origins of this herb are, they come from nature, obviously. However, when did we first start to document its psychoactive usage? That was in 1896, and we discovered that its hallucinatory properties are due to one alkaloid known as cryogenine. And in this review of its effects, they basically summed it up in the axiom of the key to secure happiness. And that key was a 25 gram or milliliter dosage, with which users, cosmopolites, reported a very pleasant drunkenness, a relaxing and soothing euphoria accompanied by subtle auditory and visual hallucinations. Originally, I don't know about originally, but we have documented medicinal usage widespread across Mexico in the 1800s. Every different tribe used it. Every different tribe had a different name for it. And it was most widely known as a sedative and tranquilizing herb that was used for ethnogynecological purposes, meaning to induce labor and to help with labor pains, things like these. They also used it to treat syphilis. Fun fact, they use a lot of herbs to treat syphilis. Seems like that is a very herbally responsive disease. However, what we are really focusing on here is the psychedelic effects of it in relation to its ability to expand consciousness and explore the kingdoms of God, as we like to say. So visually, when you consume it, the sun opener, it carries it objects, that you see. Visually, the hallucinations appear. Everything has a yellowish sheen. It could tint your vision yellow for a few days. Other people report blue and purple shines as well. Audibly, you may experience the sounds of distant bells and voices calling out to you from somewhere far out, or, depending on your perspective, far in. This is due to the herb's blurring of the physiological division between the physical and imperial worlds, meaning it loosens the spirit in how it is connected to the body is in an autonomic means, meaning you don't have to think about maintaining presence within your body. It just happens when you wake up for the day. So what happens when you consume the herb, philosophically speaking, from the theory, is that it lowers the it makes the border between the physical and imperial more, it causes the membrane between the physical and the imperial to become more weathered and allow greater movement of energies and information between the membrane. However, it is not totally gone. It is still there somewhat, and likely, and what we've noted from the experiences from the users, it opens up specific channels into the metaphysical realm of consciousness. So when you hear the noises and you see the sounds, it's coming from the astral realms. It's very deadly similar to the experience of hypnagogia. Hypnagogia is the state of consciousness that you pass through right before you fall asleep. You go through a few stages of consciousness before you go to sleep. Really, it's your brain waves settling down and going into theta, and right before you lose consciousness, you go through the hypnagogic state, which is a state where you hear things and you might see things. Personally, many times I have seen bright flashes of white light, as well as hearing voices, people shouting out my name, just random stuff. It happens. You want to say it's random because you can't pinpoint why something would happen like that, but it's, in the big picture, it's just like crossing a busy road, you could say. So, most notably, users report incredible acuity in vision, thought, and memory recall. So I said it opens up specific channels between the realms, and these channels are forward and backward in time. Allow me to elaborate. Many people have reported being able to recall incredibly long-term memories, though in mentioning them, they would moments later forget that they had mentioned it. Adverse effects of using an external substance to achieve something internally that you don't need anything externally for. However, they were also able to recall events from the first few days of their lives. And in some cases, individuals report being able to recall past lives and experiences between lives. Again, this is not an unusual psychedelic experience. Very similar experiences occur during holotropic breathing, which Professor Dr. Groff coined the term. You will also experience, your actual birth. Many people supposedly have trauma from being birthed too early or coming through the birth canal. It is a harrowing experience, and it is ingrained in the memory. And so when you go to do your shadow work or relive your traumas so that you can let them go and become a more free spiritual being, you will often relive these experiences. However, this is the sun opener, so bear in mind that every trip is different. Trip quality always depends on the mindset of the observer, and your experience will differ. Similarly, your intent will further alter the course of your experience. If you have no intent, you will be taken by the winds and by the molecular structures of the herb, which can interact seemingly pretty randomly with your nervous system. However, on high dosages, other observers have reported highly prophetic dreams and visions into the future while in sleep. So they are dreaming of the future. It is in fact still used to this day by Mexican shamans as a tool to catalyze trance for divination purposes. Now, divination is a practice that has been in use for thousands of years, and the shamanistic cultures have probably, we can say they've perfected the capacity for divination, the capacity to see into the future and observe future probable realities. And the shamans, they don't do this just for fun. They do it with the intent of guiding the behavioral, the moral, and the social evolution of the individual, of the family, or of an entire village. Most cases, the village is the family in a shamanistic culture. A shaman is really just an elder with great wisdom, is another way of thinking of it, but a shaman does have the capacity to navigate different future realities and bring in, what people go to the shaman for. People go to the shamans because they have questions, because they need to know, because they want to, plan for the crops or for the year, or travel between islands. And before mathematics and everything, we had psychonavigation in Indonesia. So this capacity for divination and assessing future probable realities is a very well-known skill within shamanistic cultures. I would call the ability to do this, or discovering the ability to do this, sun opening, the sun opening. So here we have the sun opener opening the sun. And without proper contextualization of our capacities and consciousness, it is easy for us to dismiss these abstract, anecdotal, shamanistic reports of psychedelic endeavors into the past and the future as mere meaningless hallucinations consisting of non-specific, randomly generated imagery and mentation produced by introducing the psychedelic alkaloids to react with the nervous system. However, when the experiences are cross-referenced off a wide variety of users and observers and comparatively analyzed against the circulating metaphysical blueprints, the likes of, say, Daniel Kelly's Beyond the Veil, or Dr. Newton's Journey of Souls, there are many, many others. What's that guy? The guy who wrote How to Know Higher Worlds, he's got a great blueprint. All these guys have got blueprints. The Kabbalah. Anyways, you compare these things to the blueprints, and you notice definite patterns that emerge from the chaos and the delusions, seeming delusions of the, quote, intoxicating euphoria. They actually capture a very blurry but definite picture of a larger reality that paints a deeply self-integrated, self-referential field of potentiality that interconnects all substance with non-substance, meaning matter with mind, faster than light travel and navigation outside of localized timelines. This means moving across the cosmos at the speed of your thought and also moving forward in time to, like I said, divine. It can also pave the way for a more accurate representation of what I call higher mental faculties or divine faculties of consciousness. The purpose of opening the sun would be to intelligize, because it gives you a taste of your own potential. It gives you, it's like a helping hand and letting you do something that's actually rather difficult to do without the herb. So in our world, we don't have these, we don't have a culturally sanctified metaphysical blueprint. And a lot of people, they live in denial of their true faculties. And so I I was sort of like one of these people, very young. And then I had a psychedelic experience, and then I thought, oh my God, everything's changed. Everything's connected. Everything is mind, That's what the herbs teach us. They are teachers. This is the purpose of plant-based spirituality, to listen to the wisdom of nature. So, in Spagyric philosophy, there is the study of the connection between mind and matter. In alchemy, in an alchemist work, an alchemist works in a lab. However, he doesn't see his lab as separate from himself. He sees it as a reflection of himself, and the laboratory experiments as being mirrored within his own consciousness on the path of the great work. So, this is a pretty common sentiment across many different religions, occult systems, metaphysical sciences. Back in the day, when Spagyrics was invented by the great Paracelsus, it was known as Prisca Theologia, or the doctrine that asserts that a single true theology exists, which spreads through all religions, which was anciently given by nature to man. This is akin to the Hermetic tenet of mentalism, which is an undeniable truth, which is a gesture towards the reality of an ineffable, non-physical reality of consciousness, the substrate of mind. The substrate of mind, which is the precursor to experiential reality, basically has all physicality by the cojones. Mind first, then matter. From the reality of the observable universe down to the smallest iota of reality, i.e. the Planck component, and way beyond the infinitesimally small, tangible, and measurable reality into the vastly unknown, unexperienced, mysterious facets of our universe. The purpose of Spagyria is to ascertain the required skill set, which oftentimes is simply awareness and experience, needed to invigorate our sense of our capacities in mind. Spagyrics are the bridge from the physical domain into the subjective domain, and they act as guides through the big picture experience. How can this be? How can plants give us a tour of the universe? Well, the universe is information. All of the information that is in the universe is similarly contained in the memory of the space-time fabric of the universe. This means that the universe is fundamentally information, which is, a scientific axiom that we've all come to know is true. Maybe not all of us, but most of us. So the big picture experience, like the reality, the mind, has been defined, like I said, fundamentally in terms of information. So what does this mean? It means that reality is a composition of many data sets. These data sets feed information to observers based off their unique queries of the reality. This is really another way of saying that you create your own reality by subscribing and consenting to different streams of data. Our favorite physicist, John Archibald Wheeler, once said that the physical world, quote, the physical world has at bottom, at a very deep bottom, in most instances, an immaterial source and explanation, that what we call reality arises in the last analysis from the posing of yes-no questions and the registering of equipment-evoked responses. In short, that all things physical are information theoretic in origin, and this is a participatory universe. What he's saying is that this big machine, in the reality as a big machine, has within it a sort of ghost, an immaterial source, non-physical, not measurable, a ghost that operates the causal biological mechanisms from an alternative, like a dimension that is tandem to this one. It is responsive to the causalities in this one, and it is a cooperative dimension. It is physically inaccessible. However, metaphysically, through consciousness, it is accessible and cooperative and running in tandem to this one. So if you understand what I'm saying, there's another reality overlaying this one, which we call the non-physical reality. And the ghost operates. The ghost really is you. The ghost operates. Well, the ghost is quite tricky. He's very hard to detect. He avoids detection. It travels faster than light. When you look at it, it changes its fundamental quantum states into their diametric opposites. Of course, here I'm speaking about wave-particle duality, the double-slit experiments. When you look at reality, the ghost, shows you his hand. He's got one thing going on in one hand and another thing going on in another. So the ghost is forever evading detection. However, it is the ghost serving reality to us when we look at it. It changes its states. It collapses. When you look at it, it collapses its duality from a wave into a particle. And this is, in effect, scaling reality down from polar actualized vector states that are entirely dependent upon the observer's position along the space-time continuum. So you, as a conscious ghost, like the essence of what you are, your spirit and your soul, and your choice to move through reality is what is rendering reality to you based off of your unique position along the space-time continuum. This flies in the face of materialistic reductionist science that is stating a bottom-up viewpoint of reality, which is a mechanical model independent of an observer. With the materialist reductionist viewpoint, there is no observer. The consciousness, the free will, the ghost is a delusion, and it doesn't exist, and we can't let it exist, otherwise it interferes with our experiments, our mathematics, our equations. But science shows us that it does ultimately exist, so all of reality is really orchestrated around this what I call a dialectic dance between the ghost and you. I mean, there are other ghosts here. I'm real, you're real. If you're to say that you're the only one that's real and you're the only one that has free will and the universe really only exists for you, that's nihilism. So what we have is like a multiplayer, a participatory universe in which multiple ghosts are kind of running around, if you can imagine such a thing. You are the participant, and without your sheer existence, reality would be some potentiality of waves stored in some data pool, and therefore completely inanimate without your attention. Does a tree fall in the woods if nobody's around to hear it? Well, without you acting as the informant with the unique perspective to define the tree, to define the woods, to define the fall, the self-referential field of potentiality, named the reality, remains a potential. You need to be there. Long story short, you create your own reality. You are the ghost. You are the creator and the god of your own relationship with reality through your choice of how you decide to interact with it. with a universe based fundamentally in information, our ability to access information can come through many different modalities. And it is, this maxim, universe is information, reality equals information, is a scientific deduction, on the truth. Scientists, they observe things through the scientific method. They figure out facts, and then they put those facts into linguistic models. And these models basically tell us that reality has a host of several data sets, databases, contain literally all of the information in the known and potential unknown universes. So right now we're talking about our metaphysical blueprint. The direct query for information comes through the regular prognostication, through the observers, through your innate desire for information regarding your reality. The probing for answers with the invention of technical equipment, particular detection systems, like we mentioned, the double-slit experiments, the devices, spectrometers, any tool of measurement is a query. The posing of any linguistic logical expression that elicits a physical or metaphysical informed response from the reality is a query, meaning you talking to somebody and asking them questions. How was your day? Or you posing hypotheses is a query, because you can filter information through the hypothesis, which gives you different information on the nature of reality. More regularly, say simply opening the eye to allow light into your brain to render the visual reality is an observation, is a query for information. So data streams are delivered to the observer by the, quote, the server, or the universal mind, based off these uniquely specific and vastly multidimensional inquiries from the synergetic flow of the databases within the big computer of reality. Whatever is serving up the information, where is the computer? We can't exactly say we know there is a computer because reality is information. This is where the information is coming from. So we can call the collected data streams that compose individual reality channels. And our computer is very big, very fast, and capable of producing different channels at rates that are as seamless as witnessing physical reality itself. If you really want to see how fast these channels can be served out, take a bite of the diamond tree and you will understand what I'm talking about. I won't have to say any more. It just comes right at you. Data dump, data download. In order to access other channels, you must develop a query. And inquiries are limited by your inherited biological perceptual limits. Like I said, the eye, the ears, the nose, the five senses. This means that your physical body, in its normal operative state, is a device for evoking conditioned responses from the natural data flow of the environment. Say oxygen, sunlight, the earth beneath your feet, sound, gravity, to more specific responses elicited by the extent of your higher mental faculties, such as your imagination, your capacity for innovation and invention, say of logical, technological, and even psychological devices, such as the scientific method, dogmatic religious systems, electron microscopes, mystical spiritual traditions, large hadron particle colliders, the everyday drama and quest for a meaningful existence, your own personal life drama. Somewhere in the mix, psychedelic compounds and herbal solutions, they all elicit unique responses from the server. Which, just a reminder, is an analogy for the hermetically understood world mind. So with the sun opener, you can potentially pose a query via ingestion to be exposed to alternate timelines, past or future, depending on your vector state, meaning your state of being, your state of consciousness, your intentions are vector states, and say your personal evolution and awareness in the larger reality will provide you with an experience to match your quality of consciousness that is functionally transmissible through the medium of the herb of St. Francis. So to recap, your query can simply be taking in the breath of life, a meditative action, a psychedelic sojourn, simply an engagement with another entity, to taking measurements with devices, to morphing your own unique belief systems of your psychology, to the full extent of your imagination in the daily quest for a contented existence that has ultimately produced results such as the scientific endeavor, religious movement, artistic expression, capitalist materialism, just to name a few quests. So, am I talking nonsense? No. Sadhguru. We all love Sadhguru. We know Sadhguru. He's a genius, and we go to him for his wisdom. He's like the Western shaman. And he says, the world mind. He describes the world mind. He says there is an individual mind, and there is a universal mind. They are just a reflection of each other. Continuing, it is just that the individual mind may be too muddled and may not be catching all of it. If one is able to access life through the universal mind and not the individual mind, if you see the universal mind clearly, this is the important part, you not only see possible situations for yourself, you see possible situations for just about anything. Small statement, big implications. We're talking about filtering data through this giant astral projector holographic theater that is out-of-body travel, which is akin to having abstract thoughts or non-ordinary thoughts. I mean, in its most simplest form, that's what it is. In its most extravagant form, you're getting the vision of St. Francis. So it appears that the sun opener herb of St. Francis allows temperamental access to certain databases of the probable and past future realities, probable past and future realities that are not normally accessible or typically accessed from the everyday stream of operative consciousness in our culture. Albeit takes a little bit of perseverance, diligence, and open-mindedness to query the database through the sheer power of will, but with the herbal aid, you can wade through the overflow of information that is the past and potential futures with some ease, and you can get a taste of the information that is within your grasp. This is what we want. We want to taste the pudding. Are we really gods? If we are, how do we know that? Well, time travel, divination, parallel realities, or viewing past lives. These would all be evidence of life after death and eternal life, truly. Well, at least we can say multiple lives. Eternality is another episode. The detriment to using an herb to access the historical, actualized, and potential databases is that it enables and distorts your experience through the vibration of the herb, which brings a high degree of noise within the experience. Noise like static in a radio. The noise is related to the biorhythmic coherence of the herb used to evoke the response, meaning some herbs are more potent than others, some compounds are more effective than others, and not only that, but your own biorhythms are also contribute to the clarity of the experience. So you and the herb might not have a perfectly cohesive relationship. And that would just indicate that you are not in the sovereign control of your experience. You are being guided, you are being influenced, and you should just know that you should be striving to be the master of your own fate and the captain of your own journey. However, the benefits are great. The benefit is that it enables you to definitively and euphorically experience a larger reality within yourself and give you a better grasp of your capacities and consciousness as an incorporeal unit of awareness. Like most good teachers, it allows you to crawl before you walk by taking you by the hand. These capacities, for what can be understood as a form of time travel, beg our exploration. An experience with a sun opener is a real lesson in universal metaphysics. It pushes the awareness out of the nest of reality of the temporal linear timeline, that is the strictly earthbound experience, into the whirlwind of subjective and non-linear realities of wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff, which is hosted and served at speeds faster than light by the universal mind, or what Sadhguru called the, quote, inner net, commonly referred to as the multiverse, and in terms of virtual reality, the reality wide web. If you become reliant on the herb to provide you with expanded states of awareness, it will over time become more and more incoherent and degenerate your own evolution, because the herb will take control from you. I believe this is an example of smart medicine, as it encourages you to develop supreme power and authority over your own experience by providing the consequence to the act of handing over too much control to the herbal intelligence. So the plant is a tool and is an integral aspect of the balanced environment within us and without us. Its purpose is in the network of nature to act as a gate for consciousness exploration. Its purpose is not to be regularly used as a backdoor to expanded states. You cannot expect to maintain balance, which is the goal of whole being healing, or progress in evolution by becoming dependent on any external crutches to do something for you that you're already capable of doing in a fully sober state. It is correctly used as a reminder of where you can go and what you can do under your own true ascended self's directions and power. When you are true balance, you can move through time and space at your leisure, query and filter the past, project the future, manifest the present, explore the multidimensional connections to the present in an intimate moment with the world mind. When you are true balance, you can do this. We simply have forgotten just what we are capable of knowing and the control we have over creating. So it is nature's role to assist us in remembering our talents, capacities, and endowments, and up to us individually to bring them to full development. Plant-based spirituality and whole being healing is an endeavor into realizing our capacities as entities not bound by local physical rules of time and space, and there would be no better way, in my opinion, than attempting to allow the mind to be free of its locally bound constraints of time, space, and with the fatherly aid of the sun opener to nudge us outside of our comfort zone ever so slightly into a grander dimension of self. So if you are interested in plant-based spirituality and the use of the sun opener for realizing your fullest potential, please check out the pharmacopoeia and do not hesitate to reach out for questions. That, my friends, my cosmopolites, is all I have to say on the sun opener. It's a lot of words saying a couple simple things that Sadhguru was able to put very, very quickly. The sun opener loosens the locking mechanism between the metaphysical and the physical realms, otherwise known as the individual mind and the universal mind. And it allows you to weighed about the nonlinear timelines. So in the quest for, world enlightenment and world peace and, a sovereign human existence in which all entities are free and equal and independent, being able to conjure up the past and in its precision, and being able to observe the future or potential futures to allow us to better plan, to remove or add variables that might help us create and manifest something more in alignment with our needs and purposes, with an ecological and eco-friendly needs and purposes. Well, it's essentially a key to the true history of reality. So if you don't believe me that we've got these capacities, please try some sun opener. I'm not trying to convince you. I'm just trying to live in the truth of who and what we are, so that way we could get Donald Trump out of office. We could get the whole political system revamped to reflect the true will of humanity, which is to live in a more heavenly state and hopefully stop all these wars. So yeah, whole being healing. Let's fix this world. That is all I have for you. Cosmopolites, have a beautiful existence.